everyone, we're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Erin Hinson.
I'm Dr. Kristen Donnelly.
And welcome to our video where we're going to spend a few minutes explaining how our specific research skills translate into consulting, because we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we are not surprised that people are continuously boggled, baffled, and confused about what exactly it means that we have PhDs.
Yeah.
And also why that makes us qualified to help you and your organization. So don't worry, we're going to break it all down for you. So we are a research consultancy firm that is determined to save the workplace one hard and healing conversation at a time. And the reason our skills help us to do this is because we are trained to do a series of 4 things. We'll break it down. Ask tough questions, analyze complex information, see the big picture, and produce actionable results. And really, our PhD experiences, which were in part in the United Kingdom, really, where we did our PhDs, all you're doing is a large research project.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we did get PhDs without doing comps.
Sorry, not sorry. We also did it without as much teaching experience as
Correct.
you get in the United States, although we did do a lot of teaching on the side because we love it so much. But those 4 things are really the core skills that we brought into our PhD research and were also expanded upon. So I'm going to tackle asking tough questions. One of the first things we have to do when we approached our PhD research projects, we have to start with a question. Anybody in academia knows this. You have to have a particular question that you want to answer with your research project.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't actually know what a PhD is, fundamentally what it is that you write a book that answers a question.
Yes. So we had to work with colleagues, supervisors, panels over a 4 to 5 month period to determine what the best question was for our project, how we were going to go about answering it, what sub-questions were going to come from that, and what we thought the answers might be.
And did anyone else ask this question before us?
So one of the really important parts to understand about what we mean about asking tough questions is that we were forced to have conversations with people who had a lot more experience than us to find the best questions that hadn't been asked already, a question that was going to give us new and valuable insights. And so that was trained into us from the onset, and we had to continue to work with those questions as they evolved throughout the research project as well. A lot of my questions changed as I went along with the research information that I found. But that is one of the really important skills that we got from our PhD project. So analyzing complex information, how did we do that, Kristen?
I did it through a series of about 900 Post-it notes. Essentially, I had a lot of Post-it notes. What you are doing is taking at least 3 major categories of information. So for me, it was theories on language, theories on religion, theories on gender, and then I had to do Northern Irish history as well. So 4 things that could be PhDs in of themselves. I had to take all of that and combine it into usable background information. And then over a period of 2 years, I observed an organization and interviewed about 27 people in depth, multiple times, a couple of them. And I had to keep all of that data, which in terms of all the raw data I collected that I had, I don't know, it probably could have been 90 or 95 books. Like it was so much. And these were not simple yes or no answers in my interviews. I researched, and we'll talk about this again in a minute, some really sensitive emotional topics for the particular people that I was talking about.
So did I.
I used my social work skills significantly more than anyone anticipated, to be completely frank. I had to think a lot more about the emotional safety of my respondents than we actually anticipated that I was going to, just because of some ways that things came up and life happens and et cetera, et cetera. So I was managing all of those things at all times, along with keeping the identity of my participants confidential, along with being a public researcher in a public space where everybody knew who I was, and kind of all this stuff, holding all those together in one kind of ball of tension for about 3 years.
Yeah, and so being able to and equipped to analyze all that complex information, especially when you're dealing with so many different participants. So what that means is Dr. Donnelly interviewed about 30 people?
Yeah, like 27 official interviews.
About 30 people for her project. I worked with consistently around 15. So you have all of that information that they have provided for you that you then have to analyze and contextualize within all of that background information that you've researched on all those other relevant topics as well. And it is a really difficult skill to be able to analyze all of that, hold all of it together, and then draw conclusions from it, which is one of the big parts of our skill set as well, in terms of seeing the big picture. So not just recognizing each individual piece of information or each, person that we've spoken to or book that we've read, but being able to take kind of the drone level approach, to use common parlance now, and look at the big picture to see patterns, to see themes develop within our research. These are all skills that we're able to then bring into the consulting work that we do at Abbey Research. Because a lot of doing a root cause analysis on an organization is being able to see patterns and themes and detect that information from the complicated information in order to see that bigger picture. And then finally, what we do with all this information is
we make it practical. So this is where we believe our uniqueness really shines. Dr. Erin and I are both not just academics, but we've been in business spaces for a long time. I say that I've been being trained in leadership since I was 9, and people laugh, but I'm not joking.
It's true. I have 10 to 12 years experience working in various retail sectors from before I started my PhD, which gives you a lot of insights into how companies are run and organizations work.
I've also been part of this family business that I've been in, again, since I was a child. And I have been privy to some very difficult business decisions, even when I was not working full-time in our factory. But right now, I also serve as the COO. And so I know that a whole bunch of research doesn't matter at all unless I can do something with it. And so we are fundamentally pragmatic. We are not ever going to give you all this information and then say, okay, good luck. Bye.
Bye, see you later.
We're going to say, okay, here are the 3 things that we are positive will affect this some way positively. It probably won't fix it because we don't believe in lying to you either. But it will go a long way to making this better. Some of them are going to be simple, like we really think that you should get everyone noise-canceling headphones because introverts are going nuts. And some of them are going to be bigger, which is like you really need to think about how you handle HR, because here's the problems that we saw. So it's always going to come back to what can be done to now move on. We're in manufacturing here in my family, and so we talk about corrective and preventative action, CAPAs. If you know that language, that's exactly what we're going to do for you. Your fundamental final report is going to be a CAPA. And however we can serve you, not only from that 30,000 foot view, which by the way is why whenever somebody says to us in an interview, oh, you don't want to hear this, we always say, yes, we do. Because we want as much context as you'll give us so we can understand as much of the history as we can. We are going to take all of this and fundamentally leave you with actionable solutions.
That's right, because at the end of our PhDs, that's what we had to produce. We weren't necessarily solving a problem, but we were answering that question that we had set out to at the beginning of that 4-year process. And if we didn't justify how we got to that answer from all of the information that we analyzed and all of the questions that we asked, then we weren't going to be given our PhDs.
Nope.
And so that was a really important skill that we brought from that. Another side note to the skills that we bring to the table is that we both dealt in areas and subject matters with very, very sensitive information and difficult topics. So Dr. Donnelly spoke a little bit about the work that she did in terms of dealing with people who disclosed very personal stories, sometimes traumatic stories, and really engaged her social working skills. My research looked at people who were incarcerated, usually for criminal offenses around murder and attempted murder. And so a lot of times within our work, we were forced to have space for people who were disclosing very complicated and emotionally difficult issues. and we learned how to have really tricky conversations. So we say this as a way to say, you can't scare us.
Ever.
If you think your problems are big, if you think
We
your
got him.
harassment issues or your toxic culture or your diversity problems are a big deal, they are to you, but it's also something that we are well equipped to handle.
I joke, but I'm not really. Like, I've worked with teenage drug addicts, domestic violence survivors. I've interviewed like people in developing nations around how they get their water and sexual assault charges. And guys,
we haven't seen it all, but we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot.
And we are called to the spaces where difficult happens. And so that, if that includes your organization, and you might be laughing at this point being like, oh my gosh, well, we don't have to bring in the big guns for my office conflict. Yeah, you do, because we would love to help you solve, because the root cause of every single conflict is somebody is in pain and doesn't know how to communicate that.
And a lot of times we feel that you can benefit from having an outsider's perspective, being able to come in, build trust and rapport with your staff and employees to understand that it is not necessarily an internal audit of whatever the problem is, that you've brought in these trusted external experts who are going to be able to give you our insight as slightly outsiders.
So that's a little bit of why we are so passionate about taking this academic skill set out into the marketplace, why we believe so strongly that our unique blend of pragmatic business knowledge and as well and thoroughly examined, trust me, which is another reason we developed a poker face, because you gotta sit in front of a panel of a lot of people who tell you that you're ridiculous and you can't cry. So you get really good at that. Why we believe that deeply that we can serve your organization. If you'd like to know more, ask any questions, investigate any of this further, wherever you are watching this, there is a place around you on YouTube or on the website to get in touch with us. All the first phone calls are free. All the kind of normal consultancy language applies to us too. And we would love to get just a little bit of your time to figure out if we'd be a good fit.
That's right. We look forward to hearing from you. Take care.
Bye.